Hope you're all having an awesome day. Let's talk about something that's both exciting and, let's be honest, a little frustrating. The RTX 5090. This card is shaping up to be a beast in terms of performance, but wow, those price tags. Whether it lands at $1,700, $2,000, or something in between, it's the kind of cost that makes you double-check your bank account and consider selling a kidney. And it's not just the RTX 5090. The whole RTX 50 series seems like it's aiming to drain wallets faster than we can say upgrade. While there are cheaper options like the RTX 5080 and 5070 Ti on the horizon, they're still likely to carry hefty price tags, especially given past trends. The performance improvements? Sure, they're there, but they don't seem to justify the premium. For most of us, these cards don't feel like a smart deal. They feel like a high-stakes bet. Fun times, right? All right, let's dig into some of the juicy details about the RTX 5070 Ti and its siblings. Leaks about these cards have been popping up, and while they're intriguing, they don't exactly scream great deal for the average gamer. First up, the specs. Well, some of them. As usual, the memory configuration is still under wraps, but the rumors suggest it could land at either 12 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes of GDDR7. This makes sense considering the RTX 5080 is expected to have 16 gigabytes, while the base 5070 might settle for 12 gigabytes. Memory buses also seem to follow this hierarchy, with a 256-bit width for the 5080 and a narrower 192-bit bus for the 5070 Ti. Now, those specs sound fine on paper, but let's be real, this doesn't exactly blow anyone away. The RTX 5070 Ti, for example, is rumored to have 70 streaming multiprocessors SMs, which is respectable. But when compared to the RTX 5080's 84 SMs or the rumored 5090 with a whopping 170 SMs, you start to see how the 5070 Ti might struggle to keep up. And then there's the TDP, 300 watts for the 5070 Ti versus 400 watts for the 5080. While this could mean better efficiency, it also suggests a noticeable performance gap between the tiers. But here's where things get tricky. NVIDIA has a habit of tweaking specs right up until launch. Things like clock speeds, memory speeds, or even TDP values can shift last minute. Remember the back-and-forth changes with the 5090's memory bus? It started at 512 bits, dropped to 448 bits, and then bounced back to 512 bits. So, while these specs are interesting, they're more of a best guess than a guarantee. The bigger issue, though, is how all these numbers translate into real-world performance and value. Based on the leaks, the RTX 5070 Ti doesn't seem to represent a huge leap over its predecessor. If the rumors are accurate, its SM count and other specs don't quite justify the price we can expect. Sure, it'll be faster, but will it be enough faster to warrant what will likely be a significant price hike? Probably not. And it's not just about the performance. It's also about competition. AMD and Intel are both stepping up their game, and new cards from those camps could give NVIDIA a run for its money. If they price their GPUs more competitively or offer better ray tracing performance, NVIDIA might find itself in a tough spot. Unfortunately, for now, NVIDIA seems to be betting on its brand power and ecosystem to keep gamers locked in, even if the price-to-performance ratio isn't great. Ultimately, the 5070 Ti feels like a middle-of-the-road card, one that might get overshadowed by both its higher-tier and lower-tier siblings. For gamers on a budget or those looking for value, it's hard to see how this card will stand out. Unless NVIDIA surprises us with aggressive pricing, unlikely, let's be honest, the 5070 Ti might end up as one of those wait-for-a-sale products. Let's talk about performance, or at least what we think we know so far. The leaks suggest that the RTX 5090 could be up to 50% faster in rasterization compared to the 4090, which sounds impressive until you consider the price. For the RTX 5080, the improvement over the 4080 is rumored to be around 30%, while the jump from the 4070 Super to the 5070 is expected to be about 26%. These numbers might look decent at a glance, but here's the catch. They're based on early speculative data. NVIDIA has a track record of tweaking specs and performance metrics right up until launch, so take all of this with a grain of salt. What really matters is how these cards perform in real-world scenarios. On paper, the RTX 5090's massive SM count of 170 dwarfs the 5080's 84 SMs and the 5070 Ti's 70 SMs. That's nearly a 33% increase in cores for the flagship, while the 5080 sees only a modest 10% jump over its predecessor. When you stack these cards up side by side, the 5070 Ti starts to look like a steep downgrade. It's not just a performance drop, it's like going from a luxury suite to the basement. But here's the thing. SM count isn't everything. Clock speeds, cache configurations, and memory bandwidth all play a role in determining actual performance. For example, if the 5090 ends up with slower clock speeds compared to its lower-tier siblings, it could diminish some of its theoretical advantage. On top of that, how well the memory subsystem is optimized, whether through bandwidth or cache tweaks, can make or break these performance gaps. In the end, while the raw numbers look promising, they don't tell the full story. NVIDIA's pricing and how these cards perform across different workloads, gaming, ray tracing, AI, or content creation, will determine their true value. And let's not forget, these performance jumps are nice, but if they're locked behind absurd price tags, does it really matter? For most gamers, the RTX 50 series feels like an exercise in diminishing returns. Let's stack the RTX 50 series against its predecessors and potential rivals. Starting with NVIDIA's own lineup, the RTX 5090 boasts a hefty 50% performance boost over the 4090 in rasterization, while the RTX 5080 and 5070 Ti show more modest gains of 30% and 26%, respectively, compared to their 40 series counterparts. While those numbers sound fine, they don't necessarily translate to significant real-world advantages, especially when paired with the inevitable price hikes. Looking beyond NVIDIA, AMD's RDNA 4 and Intel's Battlemage GPUs are shaping up to be compelling alternatives. Rumors suggest that AMD's next-gen cards may offer improved ray tracing performance while keeping prices competitive, potentially putting pressure on NVIDIA. Intel, though still a newcomer in the GPU space, is also making strides, focusing on value-packed options that could appeal to budget-conscious gamers. In the end, the RTX 50 series has power, but without competitive pricing or standout features, it risks being overshadowed by smarter options in the market. NVIDIA's RTX 50 series isn't launching in a vacuum, it faces stiff competition. AMD's upcoming RDNA 4 cards promise better ray tracing and competitive pricing, making them an appealing choice for gamers looking for value. Meanwhile, Intel's Battlemage GPUs are making waves in the mid-tier market, focusing on delivering solid performance at more accessible price points. If these rivals deliver on their promises, NVIDIA may struggle to justify the premium pricing of its RTX 50 lineup. The RTX 50 series brings impressive performance, but at what cost? With steep prices and modest gains for mid-tier cards, it feels more like a luxury than a necessity for most gamers. As competition heats up from AMD and Intel, the value proposition of these GPUs will be under scrutiny. Whether you're upgrading or sticking with your current setup, the smart move might be to wait and see how the market evolves. Thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.